You're watching Morning at NTV.
Good morning. Welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Malaki Vilodera. Now, as usual, on the Kickstarter segment, we take stock on the stories that you've been reacting the most to. And the biggest story that you have been talking about for quite some time now, since last week, is the President's cash bonanza. And if for real, it will help the youth, because this is an initiative that is started out, and many say that why did he have to go to, Bobby Wine's home in Kamocha to start off, and is this sustainable? So in studios to talk about that is Mr. Paul Onapa, who is the programs manager, the Youth Livelihood Program, and the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Thank you so much, sir, for making time.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Next to him, I have Mr. Ambrose Chibuka, who is a lecturer and also a specialist human performance systems. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And good morning, viewers.
Good morning. So just to refresh our minds, let's take a look at what exactly happened last week. Let's see where the president was coming from, together with some of the officials that he actually sent to the ghetto to dish out this money. Let's take a look.
President MUSEVENI recently visited various youth groups and circles and donated money to support their activities to earn an income. This has since attracted mixed reactions, including in Parliament, where some MPs questioned the initiative.
Where the beneficiaries really adequately selected, we don't know them.
I don't know whether the member of Parliament who is talking is in order to talk about the money when our constituencies that voted NRM 90% have not got anything.
Actually, I was going to congratulate you. For you, you are lucky.
Now, a group of youth leaders of Kampala Central Division, NRM youth leaders, are complaining that they have been left out. They wonder which criteria the president uses to give cash to the groups.
Mr. President, if you are really interested in youth of Kampala Central, come and meet us.
We have not benefited in any of your programs. You created a program called Girl Power Initiative. We have not benefited in anything. You are appointing poor people. Those people are the thieves you are appointing. Real people are leaving us behind.
They asked the president instead to channel the cash support through youth leaders instead of using people they claim are power brokers.
A president, moreover, sending power brokers to people, to electorates, to decide their future. We are so annoyed of what is going on in this country.
As if we don't have leadership of Kampala Central Division Youth Council, we request that next time we have leaders, if someone comes to give out something, he must pass into the leadership of Kampala Central Division.
However, last Friday, NTV hosted State Minister for Youth and Children Affairs Nachiwara Kingi, who said the president was doing the right thing to support the youth and others.
This, I want people to know this, that the president, out of his own wisdom, has a budget, can spend, can donate, and there's nothing illegal. Because if he's given money in the budget to go and spend, then he cannot say that he will spend on my own, because he also gives me money through Youth Livelihood to spend.
The ruling NRM party youth leaders now want to meet the president to look into their grievances, failure of which they threatened to join Chadondo East MP Robert Chagulanyi's pressure group, the People's Power.
Please, come on a drawing board. We need you because you're our president. We support you. But if you don't come, please, we are going to change. At least also us will join People Power, because People Power are benefiting from you.
We are going to fight. We are going to fight. We don't want Mr. President to send any person to meet us. If you are interested to meet us, call Kampala youth leaders.
Because the middlemen that you send to us do not actually deliver what we feel has to be delivered. They tell you what they think you should do here, leaving out what is.
Abavubuka b'e Kamocha mu kitundu kya Church Zone bakedde kugumba ku dduuka lya ssentebe w'ekitundu kyabwe nga baagala abannyonnyole ku ngeri gye yalonzeemu ebibiina omukaaga ebyafunye ssente ezavudde w'omukulembeze bw'eggwanga. Okusinziira ku bano, ebibiina ebikunukkiriza mu 100 bye byawandiisibwa okusobola okuganyula mu nsimbi zino, wabula kyababuuseeko nga 6 byokka bye bifunyeemu.
Naye ssente
bawandisa group singa 15 naye group ezafunye zabadde group mukaaga zokka naye abantu abasinga bagendanga balonda mu blogs
bakwata abavubuka nga bagaba akamuuca baali bakyebande eri bino ebintu byadde bya munkukutu biringa ddobo kyokwasiza abakwasiza naye abavubuka abamu bali mu nkayana ya ssente
abamu ku bano era beemulugunyiza ku misoso egiri ku ssente zino so nga n'abalala balumiriza nti byabaddemu okukukuta
engeri zitambulamu zizogera amakubo gazo omulungi batufifya bufifiya kitegeera tutambulamu kusabira tuwadde sente mwala ali lwoma afuna esente olwa wansi amagoba biki
abalala balabiddwako nga bawanika ebipande ebyongera okubanja ensimbi ze zimu. Ssentebe olwo watuuse n'ayagala n'okukuba omuvubuka omu oguyinja nga yenyiyiddwa ebibuuzo ebibadde bimubuuzibwa. Poliisi y'Ekira Road embeera tegirinze kusajjuka era erabiddwako ng'eyiye abasajja baayo. Ensimbi ezivuddeko kalumanywera ziwera obukadde 10 nga zino zagabanyiziddwa mu bibiina 6 ng'ebibiri byafunye obukadde 33 so ng'ebirala bina buli kimu kyafunye obukadde 10. Ssaabalabirizi wa Uganda Stanley Ntagali asimye ekya President Museveni okugenda ng'awa abavubuka ssente.
The youth need to be organized. They shouldn't only wait for that money. They should also plan how to do, even those who have not got the money. But I think the young people want to do something. They don't have capital. So the government is saying, here you can have some money and do something. So I think the youth need.
So that's what happened, and I'll start with you, Mr. Paul Onapa.
Yes.
What do the youth want? If they're not given money, they complain. When they're given money, they rumble as well. So what exactly do they want?
Thank you very much. Again, good morning, our viewers. Before we started implementing the Youth Livelihood Program, we did an extensive research to understand the needs of the youth if they are to achieve self-employment and also enhance their incomes. And in that study, the youth told us that one, some do have the skills, at least some skills, and all that they needed was cheap financial capital to enable them start and create self-employment opportunities. Others said that the capital they seem to have or they can mobilize. What they need is some bit of skills to enable them at least effectively utilize the capital that they have. Others told us that all they need is things like markets and connections. Now, based on that, our program, which we'll be discussing or giving it a bit more information on, was designed to do those things, to support the youth with cheap access to financial capital, or call it revolving funds, to enable the youth to start and create these self-employment opportunities.
So essentially you're saying before the president actually went out to the ghetto to dish out this money, he consulted the Ministry of Gender?
No, that is not what I'm saying.
Okay, because what I want you to tell me is we also saw legislators coming out of the different areas who represent different regions, coming out to say that they were not consulted, because what they were saying is the president was duped. We also saw some people who were beneficiaries of this cash necessarily not looking like a group of youth. They looked like pretty much old. So the issue was the president did not consult us. And if at all he wanted to help the youth with, cheap financing so they can start off their businesses, then he should have consulted us so we can direct him further on how best to supply this money. Because most of the people who got this money were not ideally the youth. Your take on that?
First of all, let us clarify two things.
Okay.
One, that there are already established and running government programs, such as the Youth Livelihood Program, the Youth Venture Capital Fund, which are extremely very different from the President's initiative. That is difference number one.
Okay.
The second one is that the President's efforts are simply coming on to complement the efforts that we are investing under the Youth Livelihood Program. And the procedure that I was explaining of the research process, of the identification of priorities, is what happened under the Youth Livelihood Program.
So these are two different programs?
They are two different initiatives.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ambrose, let me let you in on this one. The president dishing out this money, number one, is it sustainable? Number two, how best would he have done it? Because, fine, according to the research, what Mr. Paul Onapa is saying, that most of them had skills, but they didn't have access to finances. But how best would have the president, rolled out this money so he's able to know that I have given out this money, it will serve the intended purpose?
Thank you. I think what the president did is a good thing. Now, there is a difference between good and right. So, definitely it's a good thing. It's clearly a response to an immediate challenge in front of him. And you can also tell from the volumes of the money that is being dished out. It's clearly a drop in the ocean. You will not ask about sustainability because sustainability implies there are institutional mechanisms, to make sure that that money is followed up to see if it is put to productive use. I'm not sure if that is there. So if taking what the Minister of State for Youth was saying, yes, if the president has indeed a vote that allows him to give out of benevolence or whatever you may call it, that kind of money, just like he does give money to, for example, churches, he will donate different groups. I prefer to take that as a donation and a one-off thing addressing a specific occasion or event, and that is okay. But like I said, there are two things. He did a good thing. Whether it's the right thing and how sustainable it is, that is now something that is subject to institutional checks, to research, to program designs, and so on. And yeah.
All right, Mr. Onapa.
Yes.
Let us in on this one. We saw the youth saying that the president, under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, has actually come up with different initiatives under the youth livelihood programs, but they've not worked. Case in point, you actually heard the lady saying that the Girl Power initiative was started, but failed. They didn't benefit. So when it comes to this youth livelihood programs, after rolling them out, do you go back and check if they're actually working and what the youth are saying moving forward? Because we're seeing quite a number of these initiatives failing.
No, that is not right. The first is the Youth Livelihood Program is implemented through existing government structures, through the districts, to the sub-counties, to the beneficiaries. There is a well-established selection committee. There is a well-established structure to do all this process. So that means that, number one, it not only is there a process to select beneficiaries, but there's also a process to support them. There's a process to monitor. There's a process to follow up and check if these interventions are working well, what they are doing, and how we can further improve them. That is the first one. The second one is in terms of the impact. I will tell you, go onto the ground, and probably maybe my good friend Dr. Chibuka has been there. There is some progress which has been made with these interventions. There is a level of provision of direct employment which these youth are getting because they are busy in their carpentry workshops, they are busy in their self-employment enterprises and are working. There is a level of support which through these interventions the youth have been enabled to acquire some assets.
So what would be the question ideally then would be, why do some initiatives fail? For example, why did the Youth Girl Power initiative fail?
I don't work for the Youth Girl Power, so I may not understand exactly why theirs failed.
Okay.
But I will tell you that the reason initiatives fail, one, is the implementation mechanism. If you don't have a robust implementation mechanism to follow up on interventions, then certainly you're setting it up to fail. That is why when you mainstream and empower, like in our case, empower the districts, empower the local governments, you're not only placing them to implement, but you're also increasing ownership. When you involve, for example, under the Youth Livelihood Program, we have involved the youth leadership right from the sub-county level up to the national level, in the selection, in the approval, in the sensitization and mobilization, because in that case, you're increasing the ownership of the program by the youth and for the youth. And that is very critical.
Mr. Ambrose, let's get into the aspect of vocational training. And we've seen the government invest a lot of money in just getting up these schools for the youth to come in and just get the skills. But in terms of this vocational trainings, vocational institutions actually succeeding and getting to the goal of empowering the youth and at the end of the day enabling them to get a sustainable day-to-day livelihood kind of thing, what exactly needs to happen? Because when we interact with the youth, we have Omuntu Wawansi, our man is always on ground. What they're saying is, I have gone through the vocational institution, I have gotten skills like carpentry, but when I go into the market, it's a totally different ball game. Number one, competition is high. We've not been taught how to do business. Getting clients as well is an issue. So how best should that ecosystem be structured to benefit the youth at the end of the day?
Thank you. I'm glad you are going, I think, to the real issue. Because all these things we are seeing, the cash bonanza and so on, those are symptoms. And we are engaging a reactive, mode. Now, you have gone to the real issue. We had a promise. I mean, the promise is that vocational education, vocational technical education, is going to produce job creators. Now, that's not quite true. It may produce for you people who are very skilled in those fields. It doesn't mean that that is translating directly into job creators.
Correct.
Okay, that's one. Two, it also assumes that the kind of education and training that goes on in those institutions is adequately equipping people to actually be competitive in the labor market. That's not quite true. I want you to go to most of the BTVET institutions and see how equipped they are or under-equipped they are. And it's not an accident, for example, that when you have, high-profile kind of buildings and they want to do furniture for those buildings, the labor is imported. It's not from this country. You get guys from Asia to come and do it. It's not because we don't have graduates from the BTVET institutions. It's because the kind of education and training that they got from there is underclass.
So what would be the solution ideally?
And before I go to the solution, there is also an interesting contradiction, because what the government of Uganda has set out to do is to ensure that there is more shift towards BTVET, that is business, technical and vocational training, as opposed to the academic qualifications, meaning that the people transiting from, say, O-level and A-level, from A-level to university is diminishing, and those transiting from O-level to A-level is diminishing, and they are being channeled to BTVET institutions. Up to today, we have a very serious anomaly, and no country can develop using the model that we have. You have, for example, 72% of the young people who are transiting from secondary school to tertiary education, 72% of them are going to universities. That's an anomaly. It's like having a hospital where you have more doctors than nurses, or the other allied health practitioners. It's a wastage. It doesn't work. We have it here in our labor market. You have more people coming from universities. Now, universities, academic universities, by design, are supposed to educate and train theoreticians. That is the essence of university, theoreticians, because it is from theoreticians that you are going to get innovators, that you are going to get inventors. And then the BTVET institutions are supposed to produce technicians, the hands-on people. The guy you will tell that, make for me that table, and the guy will make that table. Repair for me that machine, and the guy will repair it. You don't need an engineer to do that. You don't need a theoretician to do that. And so what we have, and why we are now confronted with this huge burden of graduate unemployment, of youth unemployment, is because you have people who have been trained to be theoreticians, and it's not that the universities are not doing their work. Well, they're not doing it perfectly well, but we are blaming them for the wrong reasons. We compare universities to BTVET institutions and tell people coming from universities, you are not practical, you see, you are theoretical. Yes, that is the essence of an academic training. It's supposed to be theoretical. If you want someone who is hands-on, who will fix things, you get a technician. So and those are trained elsewhere.
So ideally, what would be the solution? Because now we have, let's now move away from universities. Let's stick to vocational institutions.
Yes.
When they go into the market, what ideally should the government do to ensure that, fine, they have the skills, tick, we've attained our goal on that skill. Once they get into the market, what can the government do to ensure that this youth who now have skills can access markets and they can be competitive in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big big question what you're asking. One, it has to do with the structure and size of the economy. I mean, however skilled they will be, if they are looking for jobs and the jobs are simply not there, because we are not growing as an economy. Enterprises are not, growing. We are not, first of all, growing those which are existing.
But what would be the quick fix, ideally?
I don't think there is a quick fix.
Okay.
No. We have to, first of all, look at the kind of training that they are getting. Okay, if you want a quick fix, that would be, for example, that we reconfigure the kind of training they're getting. You embed entrepreneurship in there, but also you talked about the ecosystem. You see, for a young person to start a business, there are many other things that this young person doesn't have. Talk about the social capital. If you have started a business, you will know that you might need less of the money and more of the connections. They don't have these, okay? So they have to grow that social capital. There have to be support mechanisms to make sure that if a young person needs, for example, support in law services, they can get those services.
So what ideally you're saying is that the vocational institutional kind of training, the curriculum needs to have a 360.
Absolutely.
A 360 curriculum whereby they're equipped with knowledge on how to be entrepreneurs, and not just on skilling, but also to grow social capital, legal issues and stuff like that, so they can be competitive in the market.
Yes.
Mr. Onapa, let me let you in on this one as we come to a close. In terms of youth livelihood programs, what should we be seeing in the next coming days?
In terms of the youth livelihood program, what we need to be seeing in the next coming days, one, we're continuing the mobilization and empowerment of the youth who are in groups to access capital, to start enterprises. But more importantly, we have demonstrated and have seen that enterprises that are in import substitution and value addition provide more opportunities for employment. Enterprises which are in value addition also help the country, not only to process the raw products, but also they enable even the communities themselves to earn and the youth to earn income. So we have prioritized that, and already we have there is the URA week, appreciation week. We have a stall there. We also have brought in groups to demonstrate that actually the youth can create the jobs themselves. And this is still going to be as well at the showground in Lugogo. And we encourage the youth to take these opportunities. As Dr. Chibuka said, the fix is not that you're going to have one intervention and address it. No. There are those who will need the connections. There are those who will need capital. There are those who will need physical assets. There are those who need mentorship.
So
there
different
are those
solutions for different scenarios.
Yes. Now, but in as well as you have different solutions, you need the interconnection.
Okay.
That the ones of capital should be speaking to where the markets are, maybe ministries of trade and etc. We should be speaking, and that's why we are doing under the Youth Livelihood Program now, is to weave the connection between the enterprises that we support with, for example, business incubation.
All right.
And access to markets. So when somebody gets access to capital, they're able to grow the enterprise. They're able to go through to URI to make products and then support them through Minister of Trade, expose
So
them
what
to
you're
trade
saying
shows.
is the youth need to come to your stand at the URA convention so they can get all the information. Can they come there?
That is one.
Okay.
The second is, like I said, the program is mainstreamed.
Yes.
They can also get the information from the various local governments,
All right.
from their districts, and they'll be enabled, they'll be supported to access funding and create self-employment opportunities.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in studios. Of course, we will be sure to bring you back in studios. In case you have questions, keep them coming. The hashtag is Morning at 10 TV. That's on Twitter. You can also stream us live and drop in your comments. NTV Uganda, that's on Facebook and YouTube pages. My name is Malaki Vilodera. Morning at NTV still continues. Up next is On the Ground with Andrew Chamagero.
You're watching